now, let's talk about your Dallas Mavericks, because that game is also going to be played. We're talking about game one of the Stanley Cup, or the game one of the NBA playoffs is going to be tomorrow night in
Oklahoma City, which is like 10 minutes down the road.
10 minutes in an airplane and 3 hours if you drive. It's real simple. It's a shame, but they're going to actually act like this is a West Coast tip. This is at 8:30.
That's what threw me
Central
off.
Time. It's like 8:30 as if it's on the West Coast.
Yeah.
No, it's TV scheduling. So therefore, you got plenty of time to get ready for that. At the same time, you got news from the Mavericks today that Jason Kidd's contract has been extended. I want you guys' thoughts on that, but I also want you guys' thoughts on the timing of it all.
Yeah, so obviously you win the first round of this playoff series, and if I had to speculate, I would assume that Nico wanted to see it be proven. Again, obviously they made the run to the Western Conference Finals a couple years ago when they had Jalen Brunson and co., and they ended up losing in that one. Didn't make the playoffs last year. You make it this year. You struggled through some adversity. You have a really good team around them. And I think a little bit of this had to do, there was some rumors, I will say that Jason Kidd was being lured by some other teams, maybe some LA teams, maybe wanting a piece of him.
About the Lakers or LeBron James and Anthony Davis, who loved him as their defensive coordinator in the bubble when they won the ring.
Yep. And so now, do I want him on the market? Sometimes the grass isn't always greener. I know Jason Kidd isn't the biggest fan favorite. Sometimes people give him his harsh criticism, but 2 Western Conference Finals in 3 years has pushed his team through adversity. Obviously, what fans may think of someone is not as important to what the players think of him. And every time I ask a question and the other media member asks a question, all the players speak very highly of Jason Kidd, especially your 2 star players. Luka and Kyrie have nothing but good things to say about him, especially Kyrie is very close with Kidd, kind of grew up with him in the same kind of like upbringing as far as basketball, looks up to him as a role model. So I think that played a big part of then obviously winning this playoff series.
Alec?
You know, it's interesting because I knew it was coming. I just didn't know when. I do think the timing of it is interesting, and Blake makes a good point that I do think that maybe that Lakers job opening up might have expedited it a little bit, but it seemed like the writing was on the wall that the team loves him, Nico loves him, Cuban, everybody involved in the front office and ownership, they love him. And no matter what we think, he's a pretty good coach, you know, and he frustrates me just like he frustrates everybody else in some of his decisions and lack of adaptation in certain situations in game. But I mean, like Blake said, when you make the Western Conference Finals 2 times in 3 years, I'm not going to be too mad about that.
Well, at least the second round. They haven't made it quite to the finals, but they've been in the playoffs 2 out of 3 years. Second round, 2 years out of 3. And by the way, 50-win seasons, 2 out of 3. Yep. Rick Carlisle, I love Rick.
Love Rick.
But they never won a playoff series after they won the championship.
Correct.
Seriously. And they never had a 50-win season until Jason Kidd came along. So I'm talking about since the championship run. That was in 2011. So with that being said, okay, I knew he was going to be back because he never lost a team. And you already know about how stars in this day and age, they have a lot of say-so in who's going to be their coach, or if they tune into the coach, that's an easier move to make than to trade a player who demands to get out of there, James Harden. With that being said, I'm like, okay, so what about the timing of it all? Again, I totally believe Jason Kidd was coming back, that he deserved to be back, especially after the second half run, you know, after the trade was made and they have the best defense in the NBA since March, the killer offense as well. And again, you mentioned the stars. They absolutely love him. You mentioned Kyrie. Kyrie's been he's Kyrie's hero since Kyrie's a little kid, growing up wanting to be a New Jersey Net. In fact, they were born on the same day. Did you know that?
Yeah, they both have the exact same birthday. You don't see that very often. I want to put an end cap on this Jason Kidd. I want to shout out the Franco and Franco injury attorney text line, 877-881-1053. Text in. Here's a couple we got from the 903. Better to pay now. A conference final would make his value go up even more. Great point. From the 903, a different 903 says, the Kidd is better than any other option. Good deal in my mind. And then from the 432, whoa, you're telling me I can have an awful day, but I still get to hear CA and the Beast tonight? What do my ears do to deserve this blessing?
Love it, love it, love it. Keep those texts coming. And back to why I think that it happened now. Well, this is called smartness on the Mavericks front office partner ownership group. It's called taking away a possible distraction. Imagine, you know how the media is. Everybody's looking for a different angle, right?
Correct.
Imagine if they win or they lose during this season. I mean, during this series. whether they go up a couple of games, whether they, whatever it goes, there'll always be somebody saying, well, are you going to keep Jason Kidd? Jason, how do you feel about your situation? You haven't offered your contract
No one's
yet.
dying.
How about, I'm going to talk about that in a second too. How about to the players? They're trying to focus on winning games, and you got, do you want Jason Kidd back? I mean, these are distractions you don't necessarily need, especially on a team that's got all this chemistry going right now, all this momentum going right now. Well, let's just nip this in the bud, because there was never any doubt that they were going to bring him back. As for the fans or certain media people not being sold on Jason Kidd, and we have no choice now that he's won 50 games twice in 3 years. And let me tell you something. I was talking about this for the last month or so. I'm so damn old. I was around for 10 years of Tom Landry and all 5 years of Jimmy Johnson. Tom Landry was very unflappable, solid, didn't have any kind of reactions, right? And he went to 5 Super Bowls, won 2. And he was Tom Landry, damn it. That's to the Cowboys fans' eyes. Jimmy Johnson comes along, wins 1 game his first year, and he's animated. He's very emotional. And all of the fans and the media, he's in over his head. This college coach doesn't know how to coach NFL play. He wins 2 rings, and then he leaves. We need another Jimmy Johnson back. We got to have another. To this day, we got to have another Jimmy Johnson. So it's all about styles. So with Jason Kidd channeling Phil Jackson, what was the quote again? Nobody's dying. Jason Kidd being calm, I was like, that's his coaching style. And while fans last year and some media members were losing their minds at his answers in the press conference or his demeanor on the sideline, because maybe he was channeling not their emotion, but somebody else's emotion, he had to go, right? In other words, forget the fact that they went to the Western Conference Final the year before. No, that doesn't matter. He's got to go. I don't like the way his answers. He's just whatever it is. It's not matching what they were feeling. And I have to give KNC Masterpiece a little credit this morning. They brought up I think it was Corey that brought up the fact, because I was talking about Landry and Jimmy Johnson and coaching styles, right? Calmness versus being animated. And they brought it up best. They brought it up to the 21st century. They brought it up local. They brought it up to this past fall. They were talking about Boch and Bruce Bochy. What all the players say about Bochy, what they love about him is he's calm. No matter what's going on, he's consistent, he's smooth. They talked to him about that in training or in spring training, and he said, well, back when I was playing, I had a manager that always in my face. And I didn't really deal with that too well, so I went the opposite way. So his whole managing style is he's solid, he's even keeled, just like Jason Kidd is. The players respond to his style just like they're responding to Jason Kidd's style. The reason you don't worry about Boch is because he came over here with those rings. Soon as Jason Kidd gets a ring or two, I don't think a lot of fans will care how he coaches as long as he delivers.
I think that's a really good point. And the guy that we said that looks up to him as a role model, Kyrie Irving, how does he act? Especially since he's been in Dallas, he has been the most even kill guy of just you can't tell if they're up 30 or down 30 based on his body language or face. He is going to be the same even kill guy. And it makes sense. I think Brad Townsend of the Dallas Morning News asked us the last playoff game kind of to Kyrie. He goes, you and Jason Kidd don't say the same thing, but you're on the same wavelength. And it was a great question. He's like, yeah, we think similarly. They approach the game. So they have different styles of how they actually played basketball and dribbled and passed and shot and whatever. But they have a similar mindset of how they want to attack
basketball
the game.
IQ.
Letting the game come to them.
Basketball IQ.
Even kill. And so I think that Kyrie was probably Jason Kidd's biggest endorser. And when Kyrie's been playing some of his best, quietly maybe his best basketball. I don't know. Up for debate. Obviously, he's going to want to keep a guy like Jason Kidd who's been putting him in the correct situations to do that. And from the 318, this Kidd extension is how I wish the Cowboys would handle their extensions for once, getting ahead of it.
You know what? Another thing is Mark Cuban said this over a year ago. I guess it was last year in the middle of things when people were like, Jason Kidd, I'm mad at Jason Kidd. Mark Cuban said, what kind of owner would I be if I'm getting rid of a coach after a year? Who would want to coach for my team if I'm chopping off heads like that? In other words, you've got to have some kind of consistency to lure the best of the best. You follow me? Mm-hmm. And you look at the Lakers situation right now, in particular, they're just going through coaches like it's going out of style. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't give you the number off the top of my head, but it's been quite a few. But back to Kyrie and his calmness, Jason Kidd said that Kyrie Irving has been a calming influence on the entire roster. In other words, he's helping these young guys because most of them are 25 years
People
old.
forget
Kyrie's
a very young team you have.
Very young team. Gafford and Washington are both 25. Luka
Correct.
it just turned 25.
Correct.
With all that being said, he's showing them how to be pros. I'm talking about Kyrie. So he's an extension of the coach. Luka loves the coach. He wasn't going nowhere unless they just fell flat on their face. With that being said, let's talk about where they are right now. We got an injury report because one guy is out and one guy could be back.
Yeah, Maxi Kleber with the shoulder separation, the AC. Looks like he's going to be out the whole playoffs. Now, it's not completely ruled out. Like, say they were to make it to the finals, I'm sure they might try it. But definitely for this round, he's out. I can say pretty confidently probably the next round as well.
3 weeks at least.
It's not looking great for him, but you do get a player back. Tim Hardaway Jr. did practice, and Jason Kidd said he will be available to play in game 1 of this series. What is your reaction to hearing that? Losing Maxey, losing some of your versatility, losing playing him at the 5. He's been one of your best defenders in the playoffs. I think he ranked like number 1 in points per possession by a couple stats that were put out the other day in the playoffs. Even though, to my discredit, so a lot of fans' credit, I've been critical of Maxey and his timidness on the offensive side and maybe his rim protection. But when you look at the raw numbers, and I guess you say the advanced numbers, he's been one of the better defenders in the playoffs, not just for the Mavericks.
Versatile defender. Back to Tim Hardaway Jr. This is what I'm looking for him to be. A threat that other teams have to account for. In playoff basketball, it's all strategy, it's all chess, it's all making adjustments. If he's hot, and it doesn't have to be every single game, whether he's hot or not, if he's, let's say tomorrow night he starts off hot, they have to account for that. They can't just say, oh, we're going to leave him open. They can't just leave him open because the numbers say Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to hit those shots. He may not hit them every single time. He might not hit them when you want him to hit them. Or he might miss more than you think he should be missing. But the fact of the matter is the other teams have to account for him. They're not going to just leave him open on the 3.
Yeah.
So you're hoping that he's hot, or you're hoping that he's situationally aware, and then you're hoping that because of that, it opens up everything else for everybody else. Alec, your thoughts on the Maxey out and Tim Hardaway Jr. in?
I think a lot of people are going to realize how important Maxey not being on the floor defensively is going to hurt. And how important he has been so far, because Blake mentioned that he's been literally the best defender, like ISO defender in the playoffs so far in the first round in all of the NBA postseason. So it sucks to lose him. Obviously, you get a little frustrated with the hesitation beyond the three-point line that he'll show you sometimes. But outside of that, Tim Hardaway Jr., getting him back, just somebody who's not afraid to shoot. You're literally getting the inverse. You're not going to get defense from him.
Opposite,
You're not going to get a guy that's afraid to shoot, though. So if you get a nice, clean look for him, it might actually help you out and work in your favor.
My biggest thing is what CA said towards the end. If he is situationally aware, I think you're fine. If he shoots 3 shots, he goes 0 for 3 and is passing the ball well, I'm not mad. If he shoots 7 shots and misses all of them and is still jacking up, that's where you see myself, some of the other fans get a little riled up. It's just because, like, you gotta let the game come to you. I think he needs to adopt a little bit more Kyrie and Maxey rather than maybe a little too much time around Luka, just with the wanting to shoot as much, especially in certain points of the game.
Before we get out of here, you got some Oklahoma City Thunder intel. I always like some intel about the opposition going into the series.
I love doing a little bit of scouting and listening to what the other teams are saying. I was listening to Lockdown Thunder, and they had a take, and I just want to know what the fans think of this while we're going into break. We'll read it. They said P.J. Washington can't create at all and can barely shoot. I don't think that's true. I said this to CA in the break.
That's Charlotte intel.
I do not think P.J. Washington is the second coming of Michael Jordan, but he's a pretty good shooter, was pretty good in the first round. And also, we know how he's pretty good at driving against the closeout and hitting his little floater, especially offensive rebounds and whatnot. I think he's probably your 3rd best creator outside of obviously Luka and Kyrie. So I thought that was a little bit of an interesting take, and just shows you what Thunder fans are thinking going into this series. So PJ, you ready to hit another pose, have another viral moment, and take care of Oklahoma City?
Oh yeah, he's standing on business, no doubt about it. I need a prediction. What's your prediction on the series? How long is it going to go?
Oh, easy. Okay, so it's going to go Mavs lose game 1, Mavs win game 2, they end up winning in 6.
In 6. Alec?
Mavs in 6.
I'm also going to say Mavs in 6.